Tonight, 3 archived stories.
If the room you're in is completely silent right now, don't try to fill it. I did. It said the silence was the only stimulus. It didn't mention its stimulus. The experiment was simple, too simple to be suspicious. A soundproof room, no clock, no phone, no light changes, just a chair, a wall, and time. 20 minutes of complete silence. That was it. The researchers said most people don't even make it that long. He did. The first few minutes were nothing. Breathing, heartbeat, thoughts wandering. Silence feels loud at first. Then it fades. Around 10 minutes in, something changed. Not the room, him. His thoughts slowed down, not naturally, unnaturally, like someone had turned the volume down on his inner voice. By 15 minutes, he stopped thinking in sentences, just fragments, images, sensations. That's when he felt it, the sense of being noticed. Not from the room, not from behind the wall, not from the ceiling, from inside his own head. He said it felt, like someone had leaned in. Not physically, mentally. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was occupied. He didn't hear a voice. He didn't see anything. But the awareness was unmistakable. Something was checking. Soft, shaken. Like a system verifying that a process was still running. Like a presence making sure he was still there.
He tried to move. Just a finger. Just to prove he could. His body responded late. A fraction of a second too late. That delay terrified him more than anything else, because the checking feeling intensified, as if something had noticed the hesitation. He understood then that silence wasn't the trigger. Duration was. The longer it stayed silent, the clearer the presence became. It wasn't curious. It wasn't hostile. It was procedural, as if this was its job. At exactly 20 minutes, the sensation peaked. He felt measured, not judged, not threatened, recorded. It felt like I was being marked, he said, not for death, for continuation. And then the silence broke. The door opened. Sound rushed back in. Voices, footsteps, paper rustling. The researchers smiled, took notes, asked routine questions. They said his brain activity showed a spike, a signal. One of them asked very casually if he'd felt the check. Stunned silence. He didn't answer. He left the building shaken but functional. He slept that night. He ate. He spoke to people. But something had shifted. Silence stopped feeling neutral. Now, whenever a room goes quiet, he feels it again. That inward gaze. Not immediately. It waits. 10 minutes. 15. 20. And then that same sensation, like something leaning closer inside his skull. He sent this recording because last night his power went out. No hum, no distant traffic, no sound at all. He counted the minutes. At 19 minutes, he said, I felt it notice me. And this time, it didn't feel surprised that I was still here.
If you ever look at a clock and feel sick before it moves, stop watching it. That's when it notices you.
This message was sent by a subscriber who worked in theoretical physics. Not fringe, not conspiracy-minded. He spent his career studying systems that behave incorrectly under stress. He never believed time could misbehave until it did. He said it started with small places, elevators, underground stations, old hospital corridors, rooms with no windows, places where time already feels thin. Once or twice a year, clocks would glitch. Digital clocks, analog clocks, phones, wristwatches, always the same way. They went backward. Not minutes, not hours, seconds, 2 seconds, sometimes 3, never more. And every time it happened, the feeling came first. Nausea. A sudden irrational fear, like missing a step on a staircase that wasn't there. He assumed it was stress, confirmation bias, a neurological hiccup, until other people started reacting too. Strangers in the same room would freeze, someone would grab a wall, someone else would gasp, and then the clocks would move. Backward. He began documenting it. Dates, locations, witnesses, environmental factors. The data didn't form patterns, except one. It only happened when people were present. Soft shock. Never in empty rooms. Never on unattended devices. Uneasy realization. It was never time alone. Lower, careful. It was time observed. Quiet tension. The worst incident happened in a research lab at night. 3 people, 1 room, no windows. He remembers checking the clock on the wall, 02:14:36. He felt the nausea before the second hand moved, before it twitched. Then it slid backward, 02:14:34. Long pause, 2 seconds erased. All 3 of them reacted at the same time, not to the clock, to the sensation. A pressure behind the eyes, a feeling of being reconsidered, not watched, assessed. Voice dropping. One of them started crying without knowing why. Another vomited. He couldn't move. Stunned, hushed. He said it felt like the room was holding its breath, like something had paused everything, just long enough to check.
Later, reviewing the footage, they noticed something worse. The cameras didn't record the reversal. There was no glitch, no jump, no missing frames. To the cameras, time never moved backward. Only the people felt it. He stopped publishing his findings, stopped reporting the incidents, stopped correcting people when they joked about time glitches. Because the last conversation he had with a colleague changed everything. An older physicist, retired, brilliant, quiet. He listened carefully, then said one sentence. It's not time reversing. It's time checking whether we're still here. He laughed at first, then stopped, because the idea fit too well. The nausea wasn't fear, it was disorientation, like briefly not belonging to the flow anymore, like being held between ticks, between seconds. He started noticing something else. The checks were becoming more frequent. Once a year became twice, twice became monthly, and now, weekly. Tonight is why he sent this message. He was alone in his apartment, no clocks visible, no screens on. He felt the nausea anyway, strong, sudden, like something had skipped the visual part. He
He checked his phone. The time read 0311. Then it read 0309. 2 seconds. But this time, the feeling didn't fade. It lingered, as if the check hadn't completed. He's still nauseous as he records this, still afraid. And he says he has the overwhelming sense that time is waiting. Not to move forward, but to decide if it should let him continue.
If you're listening to this in a dark room, don't turn the light off after it ends. Not right away. Just wait a few seconds longer than you normally would.
This story was sent to me by a subscriber. He asked me to keep his name out of it, not because he's afraid of being recognized, but because he doesn't want the places he worked in to be traced back to him. He spent most of his adult life maintaining electrical systems in buildings people stopped thinking about. Archives, hospitals, underground offices, storage facilities, the kinds of places where lights stay on even when no one is supposed to be there. He believed light was predictable, mechanical, honest. He doesn't believe that anymore. The first incident happened during a late inspection in an abandoned municipal archive. The building was still connected to emergency power, which meant some lights worked and some didn't, and none of them felt reliable. He stood alone in a narrow corridor, concrete walls, no windows, a single fluorescent tube humming above him. And when he finished checking the panel, he reached up and turned the light off. The hallway went dark, but something stayed. On the wall in front of him, where his body had just been blocking the light, a shadow remained, faint, human-shaped, unmistakable, as if the light had turned off but forgotten to take it with it. He stepped sideways. The shadow didn't move. He waved his hand through it. There was no resistance, no reaction. It didn't ripple or fade. It didn't acknowledge him at all. It wasn't darkness. When he turned the light back on, the shadow vanished instantly, leaving a clean, empty wall behind. He told himself it was eye strain, fatigue, long hours and bad lighting. That explanation stopped working when it happened again. Different building, different fixture, same result. Turn the light off, and the shadow stayed exactly where someone had been standing moments before. Always human-shaped, always motionless, always waiting. He began testing it without meaning to, standing under lights longer than necessary, turning them off slowly, watching the walls instead of the floor. Most lights behaved normally. Some didn't. After those lights, shadows stayed behind longer, clearer, more defined, as if the light had learned to remember better. At first, the shadows matched his posture almost perfectly. Then they didn't. One night, in a storage room lit by a single flickering tube, he stood still for nearly a minute before turning the light off. The shadow appeared again, but this time it was closer to him than it should have been. Not where he had stood, where he was about to stand. He froze, afraid moving would confirm something he wasn't ready to understand. The shadow didn't breathe. When he turned the light back on, it vanished like always, but the room felt different, adjusted, as if something had been calibrated. After that, the shadows started appearing ahead of him more often, half a step forward, slightly angled, never touching him, always knowing. He stopped working under certain lights, marked fixtures in his head, avoided entire buildings. Then came the power outage. Emergency lighting activated, bulbs he had never tested, systems he didn't recognize. He turned off a light he had never stood under. A shadow appeared anyway. facing him, not copying him, watching him. He quit his job after that, left without notice, told himself distance would fix it. It didn't. The shadows followed him into normal places, bathrooms, hallways, parking garages, anywhere artificial light pretended to make things safe. He sent this recording after what happened last night. He turned off the bedroom lamp. The room went dark. The shadow stayed. But this time, it wasn't shaped like him, and it wasn't on the wall. It was on the floor, standing, waiting for him to turn the light back on. He hasn't.